Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to another video. You read the title. In this video, I'm just going to highlight sometimes that the media was fooled by accounts like Ballsack Sports. If you're on NBA Twitter, then you definitely know who Ballsack Sports is by now. He makes fake quotes and fake reports. In his bio, he tells you this is a parody satire account, but unfortunately, a whole lot of people do not listen. And that includes the media, so I'm just going to go over some of my favorite times of media members getting duped. This first one is actually not from Ballsack Sports. This one's from another great troll, Barry. Y'all know his name. He's been trolling for a while. This one is from 2019. After the Rockets lost again to the Warriors in the 2019 playoffs, everybody kind of knew that that was it for CP3 and Harden. There were a bunch of rumors that they didn't get along very well and they didn't want to play together anymore. And so there were reports like that going around. So Barry decided to tweet this from his Sports Talk Barry account, clearly a reliable source. Sources tell ESPN that Chris Paul repeatedly made fun of James Harden for having man boobs during practice over the last 2 seasons. Several times Harden broke down into tears and had to leave the practice facility. No surprise to see Harden wanting Paul out now. Barry tweeted that. Everybody who went and looked at who tweeted it saw that Barry tweeted it and obviously knew it was fake. Even if you didn't know who the account was, all it takes is one click to see it. This is a troll account. But Skip Bayless came across this post on his timeline and then went on Undisputed the next day and said this.
Because the reports are this has been going on for 2 years.
Yes.
There was the one report yesterday that it got so bad in practice going back 2 years ago that Chris Paul was making fun of James' man boobs in practice to the point that he broke down in tears and had to leave a couple of practices. Man. Okay, that's when you're hitting bottom, right?
Skip really read that tweet and said, yeah, sources definitely told ESPN this. Next up, we got one from Ballsack Sports now. This one's from last season. As we know, last season, James Harden had a little fallout with the Brooklyn Nets, ended up requesting to be traded and was traded to Philadelphia. Everybody was trying to figure out what could have went wrong. Was it really all Kyrie's fault with the shot? Did James Harden have enough of Steve Nash? And so Ballsack Sports went and reported this, just as a quote posted from his account. Kyrie beat James Harden one-on-one almost every day in practice, and Kyrie was barely even in basketball shape. It demoralized Harden. Things reached the breaking point when Kyrie called Harden washed after completely locking him up in one scrimmage. An assistant had to break up the two as tempers flared, and the relationship spiraled downhill from there. Brooklyn Nets executive on the growing rift between Kyrie and Harden. That is a Ballsack Sports quote. This is not real. It was posted by Ballsack Sports. All you had to do was look at the name at the account that posted it. It's very obvious to see. Once again, he tells you it's a parody satire account. But this fake quote fooled the 2 loudest people on ESPN.
Win the championship, James Harden. Especially when Kyrie looked him in the face, according to reports, and told him, you washed up. He said that to him. Yeah. That's part of the reason they had to fall out in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And that was the thing that I noticed the most. So all those rumors and stories that we heard about about Kyrie and James Harden in practice with the Nets and Kyrie going at him, guess what? Kyrie showed us that last night that those were facts and that was true.
It seems like all you have to say is according to reports, and you can say all the BS you want. Absolutely ridiculous. But y'all, ESPN's not done getting duped yet. This is the most recent one. Earlier this offseason, Ja Morant went on Taylor Rook's podcast. Now I, just like the people at ESPN, did not watch this podcast, but I did see a few clips. Ja did talk about Michael Jordan in the podcast, but not at all in the way that Ballsack Sports would have you to believe. Here's the quote. If you put MJ in today's game, he's just another superstar. We got me, Steph, Luka, Dame, Trey, And then guys like Bron, KD, Giannis, Kawhi. It's not just one superstar and a bunch of, average dudes, you feel? Once again, that is not a real quote, that's from Ballsack Sports. But ESPN, and this is what's so crazy to me, it's not like somebody from ESPN just brought this up on the show. ESPN had a whole segment in one of their shows about this. They had a whole segment on this just in about this fake quote from Ballsack Sports.
Morant was asked how he would do in a one-on-one game against Michael Jordan, and he said the following quote. I can't believe I'm reading this. If you put Michael Jordan in today's game, he's just another superstar. You have me, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, Trae Young, and then guys like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard. It's not just about one superstar and a bunch of average guys.
They had a whole segment, a whole team of producers and the people that write the show and stuff. They all approved of this. They said, let's talk about a fake quote today. And not a single soul of the many people this had to go through, I'm sure, went and checked to see if this was actually a real quote. Because ESPN's graphic too, it says Bleacher Report. The interview they think they're referring to is Taylor Rook's podcast, which is on Bleacher Report, but most of the times they actually mention the podcast, not just Bleacher Report. But my guess is they couldn't actually find the timestamp in the podcast of when Ja said this, and so they're just like, we'll just slap on Bleacher Report. But ESPN had a whole segment on one of their shows about a Ballsack Sports quote, and so, rightfully so, they were called out by a whole bunch of people. And the next day, David Jacoby apologized on behalf of ESPN for making a whole segment about the fake quote.
Right now, I want to quickly address something that happened on this program yesterday. We made a mistake. We attributed a quote to Ja Morant's appearances on Taylor Rook's show on Bleacher Report that he simply did not say. On behalf of the network, the show's staff, and myself, I'd like to apologize to Ja and Taylor for our error. We will work hard to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Now, I kind of feel bad for Jacoby on this one because unlike Skip and Stephen A, for example, I know Jacoby didn't come across this one on Twitter. This was a whole segment, which means all the producers and stuff wrote this in. That's the most egregious part about this. And it's not even Jacoby's show, he was just filling in for Max. But since none of the many producers cared to check to make sure that it was a real quote, he had to go and do that. This is the first and only time, though, I've seen any media member apologize for getting duped by Ballsack Sports, so at least there's that. The next victim now, Sports Illustrated. This one's about Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the GOAT debate. Throughout the years, Scottie Pippen has flip-flopped on the GOAT debate. I remember when he used to be on the jump. One month, Jordan was the GOAT, then the next month, now LeBron passed him. Then the month after that is Jordan again. Then the next month, LeBron's the GOAT. Then the next month, now Jordan's the GOAT. But then, of course, after The Last Dance, Scottie has been very anti-Jordan and has been like LeBron's the GOAT and has said a lot of wild stuff, you might say, about Jordan. But then the most recent video I've seen, Scottie said that there is no GOAT because there can't be any GOAT in team sports. And so that's interesting, but Ballsack Sports said that Scottie Pippen said this: "I may go as far to say Mike ruined basketball. In the 80s on the playgrounds, you'd have everyone moving the ball around, passing to help the team. That stopped in the 90s. Kids wanted to be like Mike. Well, Mike didn't want to pass, didn't want to rebound, or defend the best player. He wanted everything done for him. That's why I always believe LeBron was the greatest player this game has ever seen. He does everything and embodies what the game is truly about." Now, does this sound like something Scottie Pippen would say? Yeah. But did he say it? No. And how do I know? Well, the Ballsack Sports logo is literally in the top right corner of the post. You don't even have to look at his @ anymore. It's right there for you on the picture of the quote. But that didn't stop Sports Illustrated from making an article about it. But this last one though, y'all, is the dumbest of them all. Because the quotes I've mentioned so far in this video, there's stuff happening around them. Like, the Scottie Pippen quote was definitely the most believable one. Scottie was on this type of energy. With CP3 and Harden, there were real reports from reliable sources that they had a rift. Harden and the Nets, same thing. Ja Morant was on Taylor Rook's podcast and did talk about Michael Jordan. But this next one is just so ridiculous. Here it is. There's even a headline for this one. Former NBA player Josh Smith says LeBron wouldn't be as dominant in his era. Here's the quote. "It's a different game back then, much more physical. I don't think he has the jump shot or skills to really consistently dominate defenses then as he does today. There's so much spacing in today's game. We had 2 to 3 guys on the star player any given night. Nothing was easy." Josh Smith on LeBron translating to the 2000s. At first glance, you should be like, okay, there's no way Josh Smith said this, cause it's literally not true. LeBron wouldn't dominate his era? LeBron was literally in the league a year before Josh Smith was. They played in literally the exact same era. And Josh Smith was no bum, but LeBron clearly dominated between the two of them. When Josh Smith made the all-defensive team for the only time, LeBron won his second MVP. When Josh Smith had his career high in scoring, LeBron won his third MVP. And so just reading the contents of the quote, there are 2 possible outcomes. Either Josh Smith is the silliest person on the planet, or the quote's made up. And once again, if you just look at the handle of who posted it, you'll see it's made up. But even if you want to think for a second that Josh Smith actually said this, when and where did he say this? Because this doesn't say report Josh Smith felt this way. No, this says it's a direct quote. When's the last time you've seen or heard from Josh Smith? I don't recall him being on podcasts recently, being on TV or radio. Does he even have social media? So when could he have said this that somebody would have heard and then get it to a reliable source to go say that he said this? It's not like Ja, who was actually on a podcast. It's not like Scottie, who was actually going on podcasts. When's the last time you've seen Josh Smith on a podcast? That's what really gets me about people falling for this quote, and loads of people fell for this quote. NBA Twitter even fell for this quote, and normally they sense the BS. But a whole lot of people on NBA Twitter fell for this. Apparently Dan Levitard also fell for this, and Gary Sheffield Jr. made an article about this, slamming Josh Smith. Get a grip, Josh. LeBron James dominates because he's better and worked harder than you ever could. He's saying stuff like that based off something Josh Smith never said. And after it was brought to attention that the quote was completely false, he goes and says only people that care about errors in journalism are people with nothing better to do. He deleted the article though, obviously. However, not before Fox News reposted it. Fox News reposted fake news. Absolutely ridiculous. The biggest of analysts from the biggest of companies are out here getting duped by Ballsack Sports, a troll account who literally tells you he's trolling you. And I don't understand how this keeps happening. It's not like this is Hoop Central with 3 O's. It's not like he's trying to impersonate a real analyst. The name is Ballsack Sports. You really see the name Ballsack Sports and think it's a reliable source. You click on the account, it literally says parody satire. The pinned tweet literally says not everything you see on internet or social media will be real. He shows you how he makes the fake quotes. Yet groups of people from billion-dollar companies see these tweets and go like, oh yeah, it's definitely real. Time to talk about it on the show without doing any checking whatsoever. And that is terrible. And if I'm an NBA player and this keeps happening, I'm upset. Because these are the same people that vote for All-NBA and vote for the awards. And those can affect player salaries. And so if these people are out here just reading false tweets and believing all of them, then that could affect, a player on an All-NBA team or awards, and that is a problem. But that is not Ballsack Sports' fault, because there will always be trolls on the internet. That's the media's fault for falling for them. Because I've never fallen for a Ballsack Sports quote. I see Ballsack Sports posted it, I know immediately it's fake. But the media, when they come across these posts, they seemingly don't even check who posted it, which is terrible. So yeah, I don't know how many NBA players know about this. I know KD knows about it, and he's called out Stephen A before. But I don't know how many of them know about it. But if you didn't know about it, now you know. And so if you see quotes posted by the account Ballsack Sports, no, it's just for laughs and not an actual report. So yeah, shout out to Ballsack Sports though. I love the account exposing the media for how trash they are, forcing them to have to be better, which they do. But yeah, is there any other trolls y'all can think of the media members have fallen for? Any other accounts like Ballsack Sports that do such a great job at duping the media? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check out my other videos. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all later.